This upgrade is all about the stainless steel screw kit by RCScrewZ. Now when I got this Stampede used, a lot of the screws were rusting, so it's time to replace all of them. Let's get this thing started. First things first, I need to take off all 4 tires. I'm going to be replacing all the screws in the back first. Step 1, remove the wheelie bar. It's held in with 3 screws, 1 on this side and 2 on the other. As you can see with these 3 screws, they are rusting pretty badly, so you can understand why I'm so eager to do this upgrade. But with those 3 taken out, I can take off the wheelie bar, and next I'm going to be undoing the gear cover by removing these 2 screws. Take that off, set it to the side. Now I'm going to take off the pinion gear and remove the motor completely, as well as unplugging it. Next I'm going to remove the rear body mount and the rear shock tower by undoing these 4 screws, and then 2 on this side, another 2 on that side. Grab the rear shock tower, pull that all off, set it to the side, flip the Stampede over, and I need to remove these 2 screws and these 6. Take the skid plate off, set that to the side, and now I'm going to work on the transmission. I'm going to take off the whole slipper clutch, including the spur gear, take off the drive shafts, and all 6 of these screws. And since I'm going to replace the screws on the differential gear, I'm going to go ahead and clean out the transmission while I'm at it. And those 4 screws on the differential gear are the first ones that I'm going to be replacing. And these are the only screws that are included in the kit that have a Phillips head. Now it's time to go ahead and reassemble the transmission. With the transmission back together, I can now reattach the drive shafts and the spur gear. I also replaced the screws that hold the slipper clutch to the spur gear and the 4mm nut at the end. Next, I need to reattach it to the skid plate. Now that can be reattached to the chassis. Next, I need to replace the screws that hold the rear camber links on, as well as the ones that hold on the bottom of the shock. This is now ready to be reattached to the transmission, as well as the rear body mount, motor, gearbox cover, and wheelie bar. With the back end finished, I can now move on to this. So I need to replace the 6 screws that hold the receiver box together and replace the 2 that hold the ESC down. With the ESC and the receiver box off to the side, I can also replace the 4 screws that hold the plate to the chassis. And finally, I can move on to the front. I'll start off by working on the 4 screws that hold in the servo. Now I get to replace the screws that hold in the bottom of the shocks, the camber links, and the turnbuckles. Now it's time to flip the Stampede over. Now all these screws right here are already stainless steel. I had those left over from another kit, but I need to go ahead and take off this skid plate so I can reach the screws over here. Now that those have been taken care of, I also have to replace the ones that are holding on the front body mount to the front shock tower, but I can't reach them at the angle that they're at. So since I have to replace these 2 screws, when I take them out, I'll be able to tilt this all the way to the side, and that way I'll be able to replace those 2. With those replaced, as well as those, I can now reattach the front skid plate and replace the screws that hold on the front bumper. And finally, all the screws have finally been replaced. And as you can see, I actually have a lot left over. And no, I didn't miss any, it's just they give you some extras. All I have to do now is reattach the tires. And there's all the screws that I replaced. Surprisingly, a lot of them were rusting, but I no longer have to worry about rust again. And that was a level 9 upgrade for Zeaus.